So again, welcome. You're in the right space. In this event, we're going to cover introductions and icebreakers, do a project pitch on our open source project and the priority issues involved with it, how you can start to become a contributor, any questions or that you might have, we'll do our best to answer them, and then how you can stay in touch with us. So we'll get started with the introductions. Hi, my name is Vic. I use they, them pronouns. I'm the community manager with Arachne Digital. I am very interested in online virtual community spaces as well as like in-person ones. I got my start with open source like in 2015 with an organization called Open Austin that is all about advancing civic technology, accessible and transparent government, and open source tech. So I'm still involved with them. It's been like 10 years now, which is wild. And outside of that, I'm also really into like poetry, art, tarot reading. And in general, I'm just happy to be here to help to foster sustainable community conversations and contributions to this sort of space. Cade, can you share a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone, I'm Cade. So my pronouns are he, him, and they, them. I started Arachne Digital with Janine a couple of years back. Both Janine and I were doing a lot of volunteer work with Mozilla, and it's also how we ended up meeting Vic. And the interplay as far as open source communities, wanting to make things open, inclusive, projects that people can be a part of, as well as looking at cybersecurity solutions, trying to help people around various things was the real sort of driving passion for starting this.
And Jen?
Hey everyone, I'm Janine or Jen. I go by she, her. I'm on the tech side of things, so my background is software development and computer science. I co-founded Arachne with Cade when I was in New Zealand. That was in between jobs, and he suggested a design for a product, and we whipped up a prototype, and now we're here. In my spare time, a bit nerdy, I like gaming, a bit unhealthy, I like eating, and I volunteer with cats.
Awesome. And yeah, I also really like cats. So at some point you might hear mine or see a tail walk by. Great. And do you want to share a little bit more about where y'all just came back from?
Yes, so we were in London. I'm originally from London. Cade got flown in from New Zealand, and we were very lucky to be a finalist for something called the Future of Capitalism competition run by a company called Leo Lion. This very excitingly had a prize of up to 1 million USD in investment. We didn't win, but we made so many new contacts and we had a lot of fun. I think it was Cade's first time in the Shard. It was my first time in the office side of the Shard. And I promise if you do meet me in person, my face isn't as hideous as that. Cade, I don't know if you want to add to the London adventures.
Yeah, I think that's a lovely photo. So yeah, just to reiterate what Janine said, so we submitted to this competition called Future Capitalism. It's interesting as far as we're trying to run an open source community, and this group that is ostensibly about very sort of traditional ideas of capitalism was interested in what we were doing. As far as sort of running, as I said, like open source communities, like there's an interesting interplay as far as how all that works. However, like we pitched, we did very well. So the competition basically announced set winners, but there's other sort of like side conversations are ongoing. So we're still chatting to the organizers to see sort of like if there's anything that will potentially come out from that. But yeah, I guess it's just really validating to see that open source can stand beside some other like relatively like large because there were some like competitors that had like that were like much more established than what we were. And I guess also standing beside some very traditional business models where we're trying to do something a little bit different. So nice to have that validated. Yeah, quite impressive to sort of get flown out to the UK, present in the Shard to some rather prestigious people. At the networking event, there were like government ministers and that kind of stuff. So it was quite a time. But also very happy to sort of get back to now that that is sort of like done our traditional open source community work. So happy to be on this call and bringing this kind of stuff as well. So.
Awesome. And maybe share a little bit more about what Arachne Digital does in general.
Did you want me to take this one, Jen, or did you want
Yeah, I think this is your brainchild. Go for it.
to? Okay. So I guess long story short, so we are trying to build a platform of open source tools that's looking to advance cybersecurity, specifically around threat intelligence. So we offer a little bit of consulting around the intelligence that we gather and how it can be applied to organizations, but primarily we have 3 open source tools at the moment. So there's like 2 that we're really looking at as far as doing the development work on them, and we'll touch on those a little bit into the presentation. And also looking at sort of the actual intelligence that we can generate and how that's offered up to organizations. So I guess long story short, what we want to do is we want to have a look at what is the threat landscape that organizations are having to operate in. So like what are the different threat actors, so like just hacking groups. So what are the different so like groups that might be attacking different organizations? And organizations can be right through from like your Fortune 100 companies right through to individuals or small little activist groups. So we sort of cover as much as we can in that sense. So looking at who might be targeting them, looking at what the techniques that they will be using, that maps to a specific framework that we'll touch on a little bit later. And that framework will then look at what are the controls you can put in place. So at the end of the day, what we want to do is we want to be able to quantify with some evidence and say, so based on the evidence that's out there, this is how you want to protect yourself. That's sort of what we want to get to at the end of the day. And making sure those tools are open source is something that's quite important to us.
Awesome, thank you. And in general, kind of what we've done an overview on is we exist in this space of open source and cybersecurity. So that's what folks are here for, and we're excited to share our projects. But we do want to learn a little bit more about the people that are here on the call. I saw that we have people in the US, Canada, New Zealand, and I think South Africa signed up. So if you can, in the chat, drop maybe your current location, current time, and if there's like an emoji you're vibing with, or if you already have a question before we even get started in sharing more about our projects. So for me, I'm here in Austin, Texas, and it is 12:14 where I'm at, and I really like the sparkle emoji. I'll give y'all a few minutes to share. Oh, nice, Los Angeles. I hope you're doing well after all the fires that were going on not too long ago. SoCal, South Dakota. Oh, somebody else from Los Angeles. Awesome. Thanks for joining. I think you're just like a couple hours behind me, maybe. For context, it's like the next day for Cade. It's like, what time is it over there, Cade? Oh, okay. It's not.
So it's now 7:15 a.m. So it's Friday for us.
Oh, cool. You have somebody else over there in Wellington with you as well. And Jen, it is nighttime for her. It's like around, what's it, like 6 for you, Jen?
It's not that bad. It's 6:15 p.m. I don't know what emoji I'm vibing with. I'm liking the star varieties. I'll go with the sparkle as well.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of the sparkle. Awesome. So yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for sharing where y'all are at. Sorry if the emojis aren't working in general. We're having a few technical difficulties. And for people who joined a little later, yeah, technical difficulties. So this won't be recorded, but the presentation will be shared. And we are all in Slack. So we're happy to answer more questions, as well as this being a monthly event too. So you can jump in the future. So thank you everyone for sharing. Super awesome to hear where you're from. So up next, we're going to share a little bit more about the specific OS projects we have and some priority issues. Jen will be leading this. I'll share a little bit more about how to get started contributing. In between, there'll be lots of times for questions and answers, but afterwards we have dedicated space for that too. And then we'll be sharing how we can stay in touch. So Jen, you want to share a little bit more about our projects?
Thank you, Vic. So on our GitHub, we have 3 open source projects, but one of them is Spindle, which Cade maintains like a dictionary of threat actors. So we're highlighting Thread and Tracery because those are applications. But regardless, like you're welcome to get involved with all 3 if the other 2 applications aren't your thing. So Thread is our threat mapping application. I don't know if you want to go to the next slide. Good. So that's what Thread looks like. It was forked from MITRE ATT&CK's app called Tram. So MITRE ATT&CK, Cade, how would you describe MITRE ATT&CK? MITRE is the security company and ATT&CK is their framework.
Yeah, so MITRE is a not-for-profit organization based out of the United States, and ATT&CK is one of the frameworks that they created for you. It's one of the frameworks that they create that basically looks at mapping hacking techniques to the controls you want to put in place to protect yourself.
Thank you, Cade. So if you are new to MITRE ATT&CK, we do have a link on the left side. So on that screenshot where the blue button is, just below that, there's a hyperlink saying, are you new to this? So that could be a good introduction for you. I found when I was new to Tram and MITRE ATT&CK, just going through the MITRE ATT&CK pages and like seeing examples of that. So you could feel a bit overwhelmed with all the different security threats if this is new to you, like this was new to me. But I went with ones that I was familiar with. So we've all had like a phishing email in our email. Lucky you if you haven't. So they'll have a page for phishing in their dictionary of threats. And why I'm going on about threats is that Thread is our matured version from Tram, where you can submit a URL, get the contents of that URL, and then map those sentences to those threats. So if I found a website article and I knew I had permission to upload it and share it with us, I would paste the link in Thread, have it processed, and our machine learning models will do an estimate on like, is this sentence talking about phishing? And a bunch of other threats will probably appear too. And then it's down to you to decide, am I happy with these mappings? Do I want to add another mapping? We've also got other things you could tag. So on the sentence level, if it's talking about something called an indicator of compromise, I'm a bit blank on the definition, Cade, so I might go to Dictionary Corner here.
Yep, so an indicator of compromise will be, I guess, to be reductive, an indicator that you've been compromised, but it is basically anything that you might find on a device. So like you might see an IP address in your logs, you might have like a file that's been dropped on your device, you might have a hash of that file. It's any indicator that an attacker will have left behind to show that they've been there, to show that there has been a compromise.
Thank you, Cade. And then, yes, on the sentence level, you'll have other fields as well, like the dates of the mapping. And then you'll have a block at the top, whereas if you want to add tags for the whole text itself rather than just the sentence level, So, for example, we might be tagging reports saying this is about targeting the US, or this is about an article where actually China is the one doing the attacking, or China is the victim. So we have a lot of things, and you can explore that. Right now, we have, as our link says there, you can use our version of Thread that we're hosting that has the machine learning models updating continuously. Or if you want a bit of privacy and you don't want to do that, that's where you'll probably hop on over to GitHub and follow how you can get set up and run it locally to you. Did I miss anything, Cade?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I guess just to recap, so the reason you may want to do this is to basically sort of like you'll be adding in a report that you might feel is relevant to you. You run it through our tool. It'll give you these mappings to MITRE ATT&CK. That will tell you, okay, so based on this attack that you've seen, this is the kind of stuff that you will want to be looking at for protecting yourself. And just to reiterate what Jen said, if you don't want to have any connections to us as far as what's put into this web form, so this is like our hosted version of Thread, anything put through this goes into our database. However, if you want that to not be the case and you just want to process stuff and you want to keep it private to you and you don't want to share any of that, you can download Thread and run it locally on your machine. There's no connections to us at all in that context.
Thank you. Yep, so we've done a walkthrough of the code base before. I believe this video was how to get set up. So if open source is a bit new to you, this might be a good starting point where I go through the instructions and kind of demo it. If you're a bit of a veteran and this isn't your first time working with open source, you might find the instructions something that like you're just used to anyway, and it could mean that you just go straight to GitHub. Yeah, so I hope that's a good source for you in getting set up. And our current priorities, Cade, can I hand over to you? Because I think you were looking at this recently. If that's okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
So for our two applications, so we've spoken a little about Thread. We haven't yet spoken much about Tracery. So I guess like Thread is the application that's looking at doing these mappings to MITRE ATT&CK. Tracery is our meta search engine. So that is basically going out and gathering information that we have mapped to MITRE ATT&CK. So for Thread, what we're looking at is we currently have attack implemented. There's some other frameworks we want to implement. One of them is called Disarm. Disarm is looking at disinformation. So a little bit separate to hacking, but still very much relevant. So we want to look at getting that framework also implemented. So we have a number of tickets that race around that. We also have a ticket dedicated to a UX or UI overhaul. So the application that we've forked from, so MITRE's Tram, is now relatively old, and I don't know that it had a lot of UX or UI that was sort of like put into it at the beginning. So we do want to make sure that we're modernizing for time, making sure that we're accessible and all that kind of stuff. And then finally, we've done a lot of work around sort of adding in some stuff around indicators of compromise. So we have some of that stuff working on our back end. However, the front end where people may want to use it, basically you use Threads, you can basically get a PDF at the end of your report that will show you, so here's the information you've added, and here are the mappings to MITRE ATT&CK. The IOCs, you can map them at the moment in Thread, but they don't then pull through to that PDF report. And we think that might be useful for people. So we've added in a ticket as far as getting those IOCs to then actually add themselves to the PDF. So on the tracery side, so tracery is one that is a code base that we're a little bit less familiar with, just because we haven't done a lot of development work on it. We've done, or Janine has done quite a lot in Tram to make it Thread. Tracery, we haven't done a huge amount. It's forked from a project called Cirques that was abandoned, and we sort of now maintain Tracery. So basically, we want to do a bit of an audit of the code base and just see if there's any sort of memory unsafe code that's being used. That can be in the actual code base for Tracery itself, or any of the dependencies that Tracery uses. If any of those are found, just basically sort of building on a plan for migrating those to memory safe languages. Memory safe languages basically just means that there's a certain class of vulnerabilities that just won't be a problem for us. So as a security company, we try to do what we say, and making sure that we're following secure coding practices. And then finally, looking to build in a maintenance process for search engines. Tracery calls out to a number of different search engines. So rather than sort of like someone manually going to all these different search engines and then actually like searching them, you can just basically give Tracery one entry and it will call out to a bunch of search engines all at once just to speed up that research process. However, the search engines, because they're all run by different organizations, they change all the time as far as different requirements for their API, different requirements for rate limiting, all this kind of stuff. And so search engines will sort of come up and down. And we don't have a lot currently as far as sort of keeping track of all those different changes. So we want to start looking at a maintenance process so that we can sort of see where the different search engines are at. And then we get an alert to know, okay, these are the ones we need to basically sort of make some changes to make sure they're still working. Cool. Yeah, that's the ins and outs for the priorities we have for both Trade and Tracery.
Yeah, I know there was a lot of information. So definitely, if y'all already have questions about the projects or contributing, feel free to continue to drop them in the chat. We do have the open GitHub, and I'll make sure to share a GitHub link here in our chat too, so y'all can start to explore that. But I do think the walkthrough video that we shared earlier in the slides, and it's also, I think, linked in the event description, but I'll make sure I'll have a follow-up, is a good overview of what Thread is. Yeah, thank you, Cade. What Thread is and how to like really start to get involved with it. Probably playing with it will help you understand a little bit better about what it does and its capabilities. And then checking out, the code base too. So I'm going to share a little bit more about contributing and just getting started with us. So first, we do have a code of conduct and contributor guidelines. These are in our community repository in GitHub. So if you are interested in starting to work with us, reviewing our code of conduct, going over the general contributor guidelines is a good space to start. It is a lot of information to get started, but I think it's all important to at least have a general understanding of, especially as you're starting to look into or see any issues that are open in our repository that you're interested in maybe contributing to. And we also document community building efforts that we're doing online too. So while Thread and Tracery, Spindle have their own repositories, we have a community repository where it's all about how we can work to make this more accessible and inviting for people who are interested in open source cybersecurity. So if you're maybe newer to this space or a little bit more green, or you have more experience in things like marketing, or I guess like other kind of soft skills, kind of like me, this is a good place too, where we always need help working to organize and communicate around our projects. So yeah, up next, just questions and answers. Is there any questions that anyone has here? Feel free to take yourself off mute, or to, if you'd like to share video, that'd be great. But yeah, we're here to just have an open floor and see maybe what brought some of y'all here. If there are other spaces that you're involved in, or yeah, just hear a little bit more about your experiences.
Hello. I would just like to say thank you for the presentation. I'm very excited to just look into the issues and try to work my way around the issues. I've been involved with this organization. It's a local organization. It's called Hack for LA, which is also like open source. And so, yeah, I'm just excited to continue working in open source and specifically for cybersecurity. So yeah, I'm already checking out the GitHub and the project board. So yeah, just thank you, and thank you for the presentation.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm going to drop a link for our Slack invitation too. If you want to jump into our Slack and have any questions that you want to ask us directly after you're done reviewing everything, we do have channels specifically for like community building or asking Jen or Cade any questions about the code base or development work. As you're like reviewing everything, just if you want, I guess like a quicker response. Of course, you can also comment on the issues open in GitHub too, if there's one that you're interested in, and we're happy to chat there as well. And yeah, I saw you in the Hack for LA Slack. I found that Slack because Open Austin used to be a part of the Code for America brigade system too, just like Hack for LA. And I think they have like a really great like community organization system that they've set up since they've been doing everything for so long. I guess I'd be curious, since you're here, is if there's something specific that draws you to cybersecurity. And of course, if other folks have questions, feel free to jump in or any comments you want to share.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I think I'm just curious right now. I'm sort of like delving into different areas. At Hack for LA, I'm currently upskilling in full stack development and DevOps security. And so, yeah, just the chance to further my skills in cybersecurity, which, you know, I think it's always I think it's important to just have an understanding and some skills in this area. So that's my main motivation. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. Any other questions?
I was just going to jump in and say that, like, from the limited interaction that I've had through some various groups, and then primarily like through Vic around like the Hack for LA and the sort of like wider open source ecosystem that is across some of the states in the US, like it seems to be like really impressive, and it's something that we want to like model and try to be a part of as far as these like broader open source communities that are building like really good tools for communities and that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's really exciting to have people that have been working in those spaces come and have a look at the stuff that we're doing. And if DevOps is specifically something that you're interested in, I think there's some very interesting ways that, so I guess like as far as interfacing with our projects, like people can contribute in various different ways. But actually using some of the data that we have, like I think there's some very interesting applications for DevOps as far as understanding, okay, so like what are the actual sort of like attack paths that are out there, like actually quantifying that, okay, so we've seen evidence of groups coming into environments in this way and impacting applications in this way. These are the vulnerabilities that are being exploited based on like where applications may be, as far as like, are they on the perimeter of a network? Are they further into the core so someone has to sort of pivot to get to them? I think understanding that and having that level of data and applying it to DevOps and looking at, okay, so what is it that we need to be patching in a prioritized manner? What features do we need to be developing in a prioritized manner based on this evidence of actual sort of attacks that are occurring? Like, I think there's a lot of sort of like unexplored grounds for that, that I think is very exciting for me personally, at least. So yeah, no, I guess just to echo, like really excited to have people that are interfacing, yeah, with big open source communities to come and help look at that stuff. So.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think like my experience at Hack for LA has been very much enlightening in terms of just how organized open source can be. Like I see like the potential throughout. So yeah, even just contributing here and also seeing how, you know, some of the lessons learned there can be applied here. is quite exciting. And yeah, definitely these intersections, right? Security, DevOps, the sort of the viewpoint that you just mentioned is again, it's more of like what I'm trying to find. And so yeah, no, I'm just happy to be part of this community and see how, you know, it can be furthered.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
I was gonna say, just to echo Vic's point as well, like any feedback that people have, like yeah, more than happy to sort of like build on that and try to incorporate that as we build out our community. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think too, just before moving on, if there are no more questions, not just like it's not just about growing this community around our project, but contributing and growing to the broader open source cybersecurity ecosystem. Just before this call, I was in the Open Source Security Foundation's call that they have. Specifically, they're doing a panel around Black contributors in the open source cybersecurity space. And that was really interesting to hear different people's perspectives, especially at least in terms of like the US, where conversations around DEI are like going on because of our current administration. And yeah, just like starting to build out those networks and have conversations with other organizations on how we can not just innovate, but innovate in inclusive ways, and how different voices, no matter skill level or background, can contribute to making like good products and projects together, is really important. So I think it's good to keep in contact with groups like Hack for LA or Open Source Cybersecurity Foundation or whatever other organizations are out there that are just supporting open source in general. So yeah, if there's no more questions here, we're just gonna go into how you can keep in touch with us. So we definitely want y'all to join us moving forward. This is actually our first call of the year. There will be more. If you're interested in joining us in conversation, we have a Slack channel. I dropped the link most recently in the chat. So if you fill out the form, you'll get an invitation to be added in there. There's conversations about community building. There's chatter about different like articles and news related to cybersecurity. And then of course, if you have questions about contributing or any of the open issues, then this is a good space to chat with other people that can help answer those questions and expand on what's already answered in our GitHub. We're also on social media in case you want to keep in touch. We have a new Blue Sky account. We'd love for you to join us there. And we post regularly also on LinkedIn. And I just dropped those in the chat for y'all. And that's kind of all we have for this session. So we end it early. So you're welcome to have some additional time back. And I'll be doing a follow-up call or a follow-up email that will cover or provide just quick links to everything I've put in this chat already. So if you want to watch our thread video, if you want to explore the GitHub, yeah, join our Slack if you haven't already, then those would all be good things to do. Yeah, that's kind of it, everybody. Thanks for joining. We'll stay on for a little bit longer in case there's any more questions. We will have another one of these next month, and there's also going to be a community call that's a bit more educational. We'll host 2 events a month. So the community calls are for kind of sharing about open source cybersecurity more generally. And then these onboarding calls are to answer questions and share updates about our projects. So again, I'm going to drop the event feedback form. And Jen and Kate, I don't know if y'all have anything y'all would like to say in closing.
I just wanted to add thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Thank you for telling us about your background, Max. It's been very interesting to hear. And thank you for everyone for listening to us. We had someone from Wellington as well, so thank you for getting up early for us. Yeah, well, thank you, Vic, for leading.
Awesome. I hope to see some of y'all on Slack if y'all have any questions. And I hope you have a good day. We'll be closing the call here in a few. So bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Speak soon.
Thank you.